Before every tradition, there is a beginning, a single day that reminds us why we gather at all. The story of the first Thanksgiving is one of those days, the kind that only in retrospect lets you see how grace was weaving its quiet thread all along. How small gestures became lasting memories, and how a simple act of welcome grew into something we now call home. Growing up, Thanksgiving wasn't about noise or feasts, it was about what was missing. The table was set, but the seats stayed empty. The light that once filled the room softened, fading into quiet corners where laughter used to live. But every silence holds the memory of warmth, waiting for a way to return. I remember the empty chair most of all, the one where my mother used to sit. Her picture rested on the mantel that year, watching over a dinner that never really began. The ache wasn't just in the food we didn't share, it was in the stories we didn't tell. Years passed, and life began to rebuild itself, piece by piece, heartbeat by heartbeat. When our first Thanksgiving together arrived, we were just starting out, a young couple, a 6-month-old baby, and a house full of boxes. The walls were bare, but the air was full of new beginnings. It felt fragile, but it was ours. And yet, even beginnings can feel lonely when your roots are still taking hold. My wife held our baby by the window that afternoon, her face half lit by the cold November light. She smiled, but her eyes searched the distance, 6,000 miles away, to family she couldn't see. In that quiet moment, I saw how love can ache and still remain strong. So, we bundled up against the chill and stepped outside, hoping the world might have a place for us that day. The streets were hushed under a gray November sky. We pushed the stroller past empty sidewalks and scattered leaves, our breath hanging in the air. The town felt asleep, as if the whole world was gathered somewhere else, together, without us. But sometimes, belonging shows itself first in contrast, in the warmth we glimpse from afar. Through the windows of passing houses, we saw golden light, families raising glasses, children laughing at tables overflowing with food. We walked on, quiet and smiling, pretending we weren't envious, but we were. We just wanted to belong somewhere. Then, ahead of us, one place stood out, glowing against the cold like a promise. It was a small family restaurant, light spilling through its windows like warmth through open hands. Inside, we could see people smiling, plates steaming. For the first time that day, hope flickered in our hearts. Maybe there was still room for us. But hope can be delicate, it trembles before it takes root. Inside, a kind waitress greeted us with an apologetic smile. She explained gently that the tables were full, the kitchen almost closed. We nodded, trying not to look disappointed. But kindness still filled the space, even in being turned away. Just as we were about to leave, another voice called softly from behind. The owner, a woman with gentle eyes and hands that looked like they'd built a lifetime of meals, stepped toward us. "You'll join us," she said simply, not as a suggestion, but as a welcome. I'll never forget how those words felt. And so, we followed her, unsure, grateful, and a little overwhelmed. The smell of roasted turkey and baked bread wrapped around us as we stepped inside. A long table stretched before us, crowded with strangers who smiled like family. We didn't know their names, but somehow, it felt like home already. And in that light, something inside us began to shift, from loneliness to belonging. The table was alive, plates passed hand to hand, laughter spilling like music. Steam rose from bowls of potatoes and cranberry sauce, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Gratitude filled the air thicker than any aroma. And at the heart of it all, something simple and beautiful happened. Our baby sat in a borrowed high chair, reaching for a spoon that gleamed in candlelight. Everyone laughed softly, not at her, but with her. That small gesture, it was joy in its purest form. The laughter faded into stories, and stories opened hearts. My wife spoke of her family in China, the distance, the calls, the little traditions they kept alive. And as she spoke, the table grew quiet, every face listening. In that silence, I felt her loneliness become shared, and somehow lighter. Then, without words, kindness found its own way to speak. A teenage boy grinned and slid a plate of pumpkin pie toward us. "You've got to try this," he said, half joking, half sincere. That simple act, a slice of pie, was an invitation into their story, and we said yes. Soon, it wasn't their table anymore, it was ours too. Plates and platters passed from hand to hand, green beans, gravy boats, bread still warm from the oven. Every gesture said what words couldn't: "You belong here." It wasn't charity. It was communion. And as the night deepened, we realized something we hadn't before. My wife leaned close, whispering with a smile, "So, this is Thanksgiving." I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. It wasn't about the food, it was about being seen, being welcomed, being known. And together, in that glow, we found what we hadn't even known we were seeking. We looked around the table, faces we just met, now lit with laughter and light. Gratitude filled every breath. I felt the ache of all the years behind me begin to ease, replaced by peace. Later, as the stars rose above us, that peace followed us home. The road stretched ahead under a wide November sky. The car's headlights carved soft paths through the dark. The night was quiet, but not lonely. We carried warmth with us, tucked like a secret between us. And in that quiet, gratitude found its way into every breath. Our baby slept peacefully in the back seat, the soft hum of the car wrapping her in dreams. My wife and I held hands, the way you do when words aren't needed. The stars above seemed to whisper, "You are not alone." And when morning came, something inside us had quietly changed. The next Thanksgiving, our kitchen came alive with its own rhythm. My wife rolled dough, laughter in her eyes, flour on her cheeks. The oven's glow reflected in every small thing, the start of a tradition all our own. And in that rhythm, gratitude became something we could create. The turkey roasted slowly, filling the air with warmth and memory. The scent of belonging, of home, drifted through the rooms. It wasn't perfection. It was something better, it was ours. But even now, we still set one place more. Every Thanksgiving since, we've kept an empty plate at the table. A quiet reminder that love endures beyond distance, and that every kindness we receive is meant to be passed on. And this year, as we gathered once more, I finally understood. And in that moment, I realized, home isn't just where you live. It's where you are welcomed, where kindness pulls out a chair, and strangers become family. That's Thanksgiving. That's grace made real. Every year since that day, I've remembered how a single act of welcome can change everything. Because Thanksgiving isn't bound to a calendar, it's carried in every moment we choose gratitude, every time we make room for someone new. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe, and may your home always be filled with welcome.